folks, it's Stigin here, and I'm here with my brother, RamStig, and this is episode 4 of Legacy of the Monolith.
Episode 4. Hello, everyone. Yes, very good to be here. Pleasantly surprised, am I?
I think we're having enough fun doing it, and we've had some nice feedback, so yeah.
You know, one thing I like about it is that it makes me think about what I'm watching a bit differently.
Is this something that I really want to watch and talk about later on with my sibling?
I agree. Yes, that's exactly right. Is this going to be of interest to listeners or not? Anyway.
Although, we're kind of doing stuff that interests ourselves. If it happens to interest you, well, that's purely coincidental. But I think we've got such excellent taste. I don't foresee that being a particular problem.
Yes, well, good point. And I couldn't have said it better. And I'm sure there's many other people out there with similar taste to us. That is to say, excellent tastes. We might add that we also publish this podcast as a video, which is exactly the same content, except it's fun for your eyes as well. So you can watch us talking. And I also add in the occasional trailer clip or are your eyes...
I'm just making it fun for their eyes. By kind of...
Is that what your eyes look like when they're having fun?
It's fun for my eyes, that's for sure.
That's right. Just so people know if they... Or just listen. We try not to do too many visual-only gags. It slips in occasionally.
Yeah, if we do, we will try to describe them. I don't know about you, but I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts from YouTube, from the video version. I can actually listen to it in the car as I drive and not have to watch it, but I can still get the sound. That's something that works for me. It may work for you.
It does. And I have an Apple phone, so I mostly use my Apple podcast app, but a couple of that I've subscribed to, which are published on YouTube. And so, I do the same.
Gotta love technology, the way it makes our lives much more fun.
So, dude, how's the new car going?
Oh, thank you for asking. I wasn't going to bring it up, honestly. But it's really good. It's been getting across a lot of technology, a lot of some of the settings for it, because it is, for those who haven't listened to a previous episode or haven't paid attention or have forgotten or don't care, it's a plug-in hybrid. So on one side of the car there's a little door where I can plug in charging, and there's another side of the car where I can open the door and put in petrol. And the motor basically works as a electricity generator. I've got used to if I'm driving to work and parking in the public car park near where I work, and there is a charge box charger, and I just plug it in and just leave it there all day while I'm in the office.
Well, that's good. That's convenient. Are there any features in the car, like in the cockpit, that you've now learned about that you didn't know about when you first got the car?
That's what to learn about. I'm getting used. There is a heads-up display, so I can actually look directly on the screen, and the heads-up display has speed, what the speed limit is, what you've got your cruise control set to, and also if there's any vehicles either side of you, there's little lights that sort of light up. It's actually very comprehensive, so you really have to look at the actual dashboard, which you do because that's what you're used to.
That's
have it
true.
on a lifetime. I've finally got myself used to not reaching to the key in the car to unlock it and pull it out, because the key just stays in my pocket all the time now. And I've managed to. I think I showed you the RFID card. I've actually now got a digital version of it on my phone. So if I want, I can just. If I don't have my keys, I can just go up to the car and unlock it. Just with the phone.
That is so. That's pretty clever. So
lots of cool tech, and I took a mate for a drive in it this afternoon, and I'm a very happy chatty. So.
And it's got a lot of grunt as well. It's hard to use the word grunt for an electric vehicle, but it really is, though, isn't it?
They have a lot of grunt from the get-go, because you don't have to spool up to a certain RPM to get to the power band. EVs, you have grunt from go to woe. So they're really good at taking off of the line. I have to keep it out of sports mode because it's just too dangerous.
Before you know it, you've broken the speed limit. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a very unusual hat you're wearing. The cap that you've got on, it's such an unusual brand? I've never heard of that
Well,
before.
because to be honest, I made a mistake. I thought it had the word spelled letters NASAL because I'm a big fan of ENT surgery. So I thought it said nasal, but I got it for cheap because the L fell off. So.
The L, so it says NASA instead. So I think I watched the video where you purchased that cap.
That is exactly where.
And that's the cap, is it? Yes, right.
This is the cap, and it's actually one of the best caps I've ever bought. It actually fits me really well. Right. So
you do have a fairly large head, and I mean that in a observational.
It's a genetic thing. We both have large heads, so that's right. We need a cap that fits as well. But then I bought it in America where everybody has a big head, so.
There could have been a better way to word that.
No politics on this podcast. Yes. May Cooper, I failed to ask you about your cap. Please tell me about your cap.
Thank you for asking. So this is it's a mid-blue cap with a white beak, and it has the crest of County Clare in Ireland on it, Cosclare. Oh. So 10 years ago, myself and my family went over there went to Ireland for 2 months, and we spent 6 weeks of it in County Clare.
Whereabouts is County Clare in relation to, say, Dublin?
It's on the west coast. It's about the same.
Okay.
So you almost goes directly west from Dublin.
Okay.
It was a great time. I got to meet lots of people, and one thing I find fascinating is that people who are locals can tell where another local is from just the way they speak. And this isn't just people from other counties. Apparently, people from different parts of the same county might have slightly different ways of saying things.
Okay.
We stayed in Kildasset, which is a country town of, I think Wikipedia said there's like 400 people in the town, and it has 7 pubs, or 6 pubs at least, 6 official ones. And we stayed in an apartment attached to one of the pubs. So if I went out to the back of the apartment, I'm walking into the beer garden. So we got to know the publican obviously quite well. And so he'd just come in, and I'd walk in through the back door, and he'd just see me and pour me a Guinness. It was, yeah, well, that's right. And it was also when they had their Gaelic football grand final, and County Clare won that year.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
I was in amongst the celebrations. Yeah. It was really, really good. Actually, interesting sport to watch. I can see the link between it and Aussie rules. Yeah, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few Gaelic football players who have come over to Australia to play Aussie rules. So
yeah.
So we're going from the round ball to kind of an ovalish ball.
Speaking of America, I'm just going to say this to make you jealous, and I'm not sure whether I've told you this, but in about 8 weeks, myself and my family are heading to the US for 2 weeks.
8 weeks? That's soon. I knew it was coming up, but that's soon.
Including Disneyland. It might even be 3 days worth in Disneyland in LA.
And there's a space shuttle there that I want to see, so I need to go see Endeavour at some point.
When you say there, whereabouts is it?
Oh.
Is that the airport, or is it in
No,
LA?
it's in Los Angeles or somewhere. I don't think you can see it at the moment because I think they're rebuilding the exhibit, but I could be wrong. I'm happy to be corrected. So, but yeah, that's when that's all set up. Yeah, I think they're going to basically have it. They're going to have it sort of set in the vertical position. Oh, hang on a second. Just hold on a second. This is show and tell time.
So, Stigin has props, and he has.
This is a prop. This is a listener. So I've got a little model space shuttle, which I bought this one at the Smithsonian Institute a few years back. Just the way. So yes. So I think in the new exhibit of Endeavour, the shuttle Endeavour in LA, it's going to be erected vertically with the 2 shuttles. My 2 fingers for those people sort of imagining them watching, listening and not being able to see. I have a toy space shuttle. It's about 4 inches long, vertical, and 2 of my fingers are playing the role of boosters. So, hang on, no, there's my thumb is the tank and the booster. No, I've got to do it. You get the
actually, for a minute, it kind of looked like the shuttle was humping one of his fingers, which was probably good if you're just listening to this on video. The whole point is the boosters and so forth will be.
It's going to be erected vertically. So I'm like, because Discovery at the Smithsonian
Mm-hmm.
in
I've seen that
Washington.
one.
You've seen that one. So that's just basically
Yep.
like that, horizontal like that.
Yep.
Atlantis at Kennedy Space Center is kind of oriented on an angle,
And that's in your video too, isn't it? That was pretty cool.
That's it. And the payload bay doors open. That's just a spectacular, absolutely spectacular.
I do remember at the Smithsonian there was an upstairs sort of almost viewing thing, because it was, as you said, it's flat, but you could actually see the top of it.
But by the way, so I'm stealing your thunder. You're going off to the States and you go to Disneyland. Are you going to go to the Star Wars Galaxy Cruiser thing?
My guess is one of the days will be devoted to Star Wars.
Wow.
And apparently there's also other things at Disneyland that we're going to have a look at. But
there's other things at
I've been informed that there are other things that aren't Star Wars, but
wow.
We'll see. One of the other places I'm going to is Boston. And the video game Fallout 4 is set in a post-apocalyptic Boston. In fact, one of the places we're staying at is one of the first towns that you visit in the game. So I'm thinking I'll collect some video footage. I'm certainly not the first person to do this, but I may collect some video footage of the real life locations.
I think, given the context of your previous videos, that's entirely comparing the real world Boston to the as depicted in the video games.
Have you made any new YouTube videos since we talked last?
No, I have not. I've been focused creatively on stuff that I'm doing for the Adelaide Fringe.
Please explain.
Well, the Adelaide Fringe Festival is a festival of, I think it's about 1,000 different shows over 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
From mid-February through to sort of mid-late March, and which is coming up. Well, I think it starts in about a week's time. So as we record this, I'm involved in 3, possibly 4 different shows.
Wow,
which is what happens. I get involved in, because I do improv comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the default show that I always do every year is through the improv company called On the Fly. So they do a show called Maestro, which is kind of like a theatre sports type show, but it's an elimination where you eliminate people, so you get the one best performer, the one winner, the maestro at the end. So I love that. It's just so much fun. I'll post some links, and I'm sure Nexus can post some information up on the screen. That'd be great. And so that's one I do every year. I'm also doing a show of my own production.
Wow.
Which surprise, is a science fiction show.
Really? So you wow, that must be so out of script.
I'm so far out of my comfort zone. What can I say? So this is called Galactic Trek: Strange New Nerds. And just hang on a sec.
Galactic Trek: Strange New Nerds. Oh,
that's the poster. The poster for the show.
Very nice.
And they've got nerd glasses on. So
they do. Well, there must be nerds. Very nice.
Yeah. So we're workshopping that, and so it's improvised comedy. But the thought behind it is that we all play the same characters, but every episode is like another episode of Star Trek sort of thing. But it's not Starfleet; we're Star Command,
right?
And it's not the best ship in the fleet. It's a bit run down and derelict, and we get up to mischief. And we have a great time. So I highly recommend coming on for that. Most sessions are going to be like about 10, 20 at night. So it's going to be good. So go out, see your main show that you're going to go see. That your one that you're going to spend 50, 60, $80 on, and then come and spend $20 odd bucks to come and see our show later at night. So but I'll put some. Again, I'll provide some details, though, but may even be able to. I've done some promo video stuff, so I might even wedge that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I've been working on that this weekend. So a lot of promotional stuff. I just want to sell tickets that cover the cost of venue hire, rehearsal venue, and advertising.
It's a really good buzz, isn't it? The Adelaide Fringe.
Oh, Adelaide during Fringe is just the best. Absolutely, because it's a nice time of year. The weather's great. The city really is buzzing. Now there is one show another show that I'm in, which is actually very, very interesting because it is directly related to AI. It's a show called Welcome to the Cave. It's tickets pretty much sold out by now, but it's basically up at Flinders Uni. So a friend of mine is working with the drama department there, and they're doing a production with a lot of AI engineers. And so what we're doing, we're doing a show where we're getting the audience and ourselves to interact with actual AI characters. So they're Chat GPT characters and they've all been given particular personas and backstories and so forth, and we're sort of interacting with them on that basis for the show. And so that's going to be really interesting. And it's a if you've ever seen a documentary on how they make Star Wars stuff, well, they have the volume. So it's in a big room like that, big two-story tall video. So I haven't actually seen that room yet, but it sounds like it's going to be quite an experience.
So that's the room that the actual show will be in. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes, it is in that room. The audience will be in that room, surrounded by these giant video screens. So there'll be myself and another human sort of a facilitator. The idea is that you're going to a wellness clinic, and the AI characters are rich celebrities, and they can't mingle with us. They have to be behind a screen. But you can talk. You speak to them, and they understand, and they speak back. So using Chat GPT. So that's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So
well, it means every show is going to be different, I'm assuming. So
it's like it's not identical. The interactions will be unique at each show, depending what.
Yeah, yes, I see what you're saying.
What the audience asks them. The one other show that I'm also involved in is called Clash of the Titans, Theatre Sports. It's like this is going to be their 20th season of doing the show, and for the last few years I've been the guest hanging judge. Who wears a red cape and everybody boos because I'm mean and nasty, and that's going to be. And we're actually doing it in a real theatre. We're doing it. That's going to be at the Arts Theatre, but not in a tent somewhere, which is where a lot of the fringe shows are.
Yeah.
So that's.
It sounds like you're going to be busy.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll definitely have content for making more videos, but I've just got to sit down and edit it. But I'm doing all the promotional stuff for these shows. So.
Oh, that's good. Nice.
Yeah.
It certainly sounds what you're doing certainly sounds more interesting than the video you made on the local tourist train.
Hey, that was great. That's people love that video.
I haven't watched it, but apparently it is quite popular. Yes, and I think there's
people do love the video because I just wanted to capture the atmosphere of what it was like to be on a steam train, the Steam Ranger train through the Adelaide Hills. And this was recorded back in August, I think, when everything was still nice and lovely and green. And it's a lot of fun. I do like that video.
And the good thing about videos of like that is that they're timeless in a way. That they're not related to a certain season or holiday or anything. And that's good. That's very good.
So my mate Pete, who I did that video with, he used to work for the railways, so he loves anything train related as well. So, but he's actually got some actual insight into it. But we want to go and explore other railways and do more videos together between the two of us. So that'll be fun.
I mainly mentioned it because it's not your core interest, and yet it was very popular on your channel. So
yeah, I know it's more popular than me spending thousands of dollars going to the United States and going to the Kennedy Space Center or the Houston Space Center or going to see an actual rocket launch. But more people want to see a 100-year-old train puffing around and asthmatically up and down the hills. I'm not bitter about that at all.
Not at all. Not a little bit. Not even a little bit.
I do it for me. I don't care about anybody else.
It is interesting. I made a video about maybe 2 months ago, and it was on a very technical topic of an older video game. And honestly, in retrospect, the video probably could have been 5 minutes long. But because I like to explain the background to these things, I like to not quite start at the beginning, but start assuming people don't know a lot about it. It ended up being 14 minutes. But I thought, so I made the video I wanted to make, but not necessarily the one people wanted to see. But since it's not my livelihood, I'm happy with that. I don't mind.
And I think as amateur YouTube video makers, I think we just need to do what interests us. And that's how I view it. I think, what would I like to go back to is like, oh, yeah, what did I do? What was it like, when I did this trip, when I did this holiday stuff? And post that for my own benefit. And if anybody else finds that interesting, well, that's great.
Yeah, I agree.
If they don't find it interesting, that's not a problem at all.
So about 2 hours ago, I finished editing a video, which I can't believe it has taken me a month to make it, but it has. So you've probably heard of this game. I just happen to have it here. So this is, I'm holding up the cover to the game.
Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion.
So this game came out in 2006. Over the last couple of years, there's been very strong rumors that there's going to be a remake. It started off as just a remaster, which is where they just make it look a bit prettier.
Yeah.
But the latest rumors are of an actual full-on remake using the latest Unreal Engine and all the rest of it. So I made a video of my top 10 wish list of things I'd like to see.
Oh, no, that's very brilliant. That's very good. I don't think I've played Oblivion. I do recall playing Elder Scrolls 2, Morrowind.
Oh, 3, yeah. Morrowind, yeah.
I remember playing that on, I think, one of the possibly the original Xbox.
It would have been. Yes, right.
Yep. And I remember, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good. That's got so much atmosphere and so much of a good story. It's a bit hard to get into nowadays without some serious modding. But its sequel, Oblivion, it's a longer video. And unlike most of my videos, which is me collecting evidence and then showing people how well a game is performing, this is just me giving my opinion. So I had to work hard to make sure I didn't sound entitled or I was telling the developers what to do. It was just, this is what I'd love. This is my wish list. The only problem is when I recorded the video, it was stinking hot. And so I was all bright red, and I don't think I was a bit hard to be super cheery when it's hot. So let's see how it goes, I'm sure. Have you played any video games?
I did. I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos about a guy who makes funny videos of City Skylines 2.
Oh, I see.
And he's I think he's called Real Engineer or something like that. But yeah, he reviews a whole bunch of games. But he's an English guy, a bit of a character. So his Patreon, apparently, he has a serious build where he's making a serious city using all the best design principles and everything. The videos he makes for YouTube tend to be basically just him dicking around. So he'll do things like, well, what if I make a city which just only has one street, which just kind of circles around?
Oh, wow.
How's that going to work out? Or what if he makes a city that's just a straight line? Or what if he makes a city that's restricted to just the one square of the entire map? And so there's a couple of recurring themes from this video, from his videos. One of his what he calls very efficient design, which is basically things being shaped to look like men's genitals. That's probably the best way to put it.
Efficient, right? Yes, I see.
So that's his. Oh, look, that's really efficient design. And one of the real things on the game that you have to deal with is the sewage. So there's always the battle of keeping the sewage away from the clean drinking water.
Well, yes.
Yeah. So the guy's name is, in his YouTube channel is Real Civil Engineer. So English guy. Quite fun. He does play a lot of other games, but I do particularly like his City Skylines stuff. I've been playing City Skylines a little bit. I bought it years ago, the original version, and played it a little bit, and sort of got lost.
It's a bit like SimCity.
Yeah, it is very much like SimCity. Of course, I've been playing No Man's Sky because I'm always playing No Man's Sky.
Yep.
It's like my default game. So that's come out with a new major update, which called Worlds 2. A lot of quality of life things, but one of the things I really love about it is it's the way it deals with water. And so I need to find an image to show you and to insert. But there was one planet I went to, which was an icy planet with mountains in the background, but you had the water, and the water was still, and you just had this beautiful reflection of the mountains on the water, and just really played with the water physics. So, and this is a 9-year-old game. It came out in 2016 originally. It's just like,
I remember seeing a post somewhere, someone saying, "It's okay, guys, you've done enough. You don't need to keep updating
And
it."
I know well. I think what's actually happening. They've got Hello Games, which are the game designers, have a new game coming out called Light No Fire, which is
Right.
basically going to be on one single Earth-sized planet, an actual Earth-sized planet. Completely
One-to-one scale.
yeah, one-to-one scale planet.
Wow.
Because Light No Fire is going to be like a fantasy type game. Yeah, using a lot of the same technology that they use in No Man's Sky. So basically, they're using No Man's Sky to pilot this technology.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. So it's like that's how they can afford to do it, because it's using the same engine.
that's very clever. So they're using No Man's Sky to help test the technologies, software tech for the new game.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw a trailer for that. It looks interesting. I hope it's not
Yeah.
just a straightforward survival game. We've probably had too many of those.
If it's anything like No Man's Sky, it'll be open world. So there will be a storyline. If they follow the path of No Man's Sky, there'll be a storyline to follow, and you can go and follow that. But you can also go and do your own thing at the same time. So, like No Man's Sky, you can follow the quest, or just go off and be rich, or just go off and be a pirate, or just go and explore and document each planet and find all the animals and creatures and stuff like that. I landed on a planet, and this is the first time I've done it of playing it. I landed on a planet which had robotic creatures, because in the game you can actually feed creatures and adopt them as a pet. So I have adopted this little robotic, like a mini pony thing, I guess is probably the way you would call it, but it's a robot. So
Cool.
I'll see if I can get a screenshot for you and things. So I thought, right, you're cool. I'm keeping you as a pet. So the idea is you can actually ride them. You go to a planet, and you can summon
Really?
them, and you can ride them instead of walking. Who doesn't want to ride a robot pony?
I think I've seen that video. Anyway, I just got to tell you about. So I haven't really been playing many games. There's a game coming out in about a week called Avowed, which looks, so at least superficially, a lot like Skyrim, which is the sequel to Oblivion. You can play it first person or third person, and it's a fairly open world. I don't think it's fully open, but the whole idea is, you don't choose a class. Normally in these games you choose a class, but basically you just choose what skills you want. So you can have a wand in one hand and a pistol, like an old musket type pistol, in the other hand, or you can become a warrior and all the rest of it. The interesting thing is that it's the first person version of a game which was released 10 years ago called Pillars of Eternity. And this was a Kickstarter. So it's by an established game company. I'll back up. Pillars of Eternity is an isometric game. It's a bit like the original Baldur's Gate. So you sort of top down. And they lost popularity. There was no interest in them. So the company thought, for us, let's gauge how much interest there will be in making another one of these games, since no one's made one for ages. So they put it on Kickstarter and got like 77,000 followers and made multiple $1 million to make this game. And it worked out really well. It helped kickstart. It helped restart the isometric games, and then they released the second one. There's a couple of other ones called Divinity, which came out, and then of course Baldur's Gate 3 was then released on sort of riding the wave of all the interest in these isometric first person isometric role playing games.
Yeah.
But this game that's about to come out is not isometric; it's the first person, but it's based in the same game world. So if you played the other ones and you know some of the backstory of the world,
wasn't it the case with World of Warcraft being the 3D sort of first person or perspective version of the original Warcraft?
Yeah, that's a good analogy in a way. I haven't actually read anyone make that analogy. So I've been replaying the first game. So I was one of the 77,000.
Oh, good man. Look, it's really good when creators get supported by people who are passionate about it, and for that, and by those who have the means to support them. That's great.
So I have an important question for you. What have you watched this week?
Wow. I'm glad you asked, because I have a list of things. I went back and watched the movie Snowpiercer, not the
Oh,
TV series, the
right,
movie.
right. Yes.
With Chris Evans.
I saw it when it came out, but that was 10
Yeah.
years ago, probably.
I think it was 2013. I think
Right,
something like that
yeah.
when the movie came out.
Did it hold up okay?
Yeah, just from what I gather, because I haven't read the books and I haven't seen the TV series. From what
No.
I gather, there's a lot more to the story that comes out of the
Yeah.
movies. So I'm
Right.
kind of want to go and see the TV series at some point, because apparently the train is supposed to be like 1,001 carriages long.
Huh.
The Snowpiercer train, and the idea is post. This is not a spoiler, but post-apocalyptic world, and there's one train that literally goes around the world, built by a trillionaire, and it has there's tracks that will take it literally every continent and go around the world through Antarctica, go through Australia, and everywhere. But the world is frozen because they were trying to stop global warming, so they released some chemical when they overdid it, and the world froze.
Oh.
So, and hence humanity lives on one train.
There is an analogy to Silo in a way.
There was a lot of analogies to Silo, and that was I was gonna talk about that a bit.
Right, okay.
Thanks for stealing my thunder. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, no. Well, it's just
No.
because we have similar brains. I think we
of course. So we think similarly. So how boring as we both.
Just reinforcing each other's beliefs. Anyway,
that's it. We reinforce each other's worldview. That's it. That's what we hear. That's why you're here listening to the podcast, because we're reinforcing your worldview. So you're welcome. But it's supposed to be 1,001 carriages long, which doesn't really come across in the movie. It comes across as a long train.
Yes.
But like if it's 1,000 carriages long, it'd be like many kilometers long.
Yes.
Powered by this fantastic nuclear powered engine. So, look, it was good fun. I kind of feel like there's a lot of story missing from the film, because it is only like a 2-hour movie. We'll make a note to try and watch the TV series at some point. So
you got me thinking about it now. What else have you been watching?
Yeah, and Silo has finished season 2, and
so I tried to watch it all before we recorded this, but I couldn't get through it all. So, but definitely by next recording where
you're up to as we speak.
So I think there's 10 episodes. I've done 6. Yeah.
Okay. So, it really does kick off. The last few episodes are really kind of wow, what's happening here. Okay, so
I love Tim Robbins' character. So far, Tim Robbins' character, he's losing it a bit. Like some of the decisions he's made are causing his brain to break a little. So I'm curious to see how that will go. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
Let's put it this way: there's we see some consequences of some actions or non-actions. Come to pass. So very. It's a brilliant piece of television. Great series. Highly recommend it. Watched a movie on I think the Disney Channel called Night Bitch, about a woman who turns into a dog at night. But it's really not about her turning into a dog. It's really about a mum struggling with her first child while her husband's off for work, and he goes away during the week for on work trips, and she's at home trying to raise a small child, and struggling because she's a creative, she's an artist in her own right, and she's sort of left all that behind. So it's about sort of exploring the relationship they have with each other, and but she also turns into a dog at night.
Interesting.
The lead actor, the star of Night Bitch is Amy Adams, who is a very good actor. And great in this movie, and she looks a bit more frumpy than you might expect her. So, and I think that's kind of the nature of the role. Sort of like motherhood is like cause sort of change her approach to life and what she's eating and the amount of exercise and so forth. And this is stuff that's addressed in the film. I'm very happy to also report that I've been watching Severance season 2, which is back on Apple TV.
Season 1 was brilliant, and it ended up being the last episode or so. Oh my god! I haven't started watching season 2, but
Yeah,
it's
so
season
season
1.
2 is kicking along on the theme. It basically continues directly straight on from season 1.
Fantastic.
So in the same vein, and very highly recommended.
Yeah.
Really good television drama. So and it's if you like a mystery show, like apparently there's a lot of parallels to Lost. There's a lot of shout outs and references to it. Now, I never watched all of Lost, so
No, not much.
but apparently if you like Lost, you would like Severance. I think that's kind of the gist of it. So but yeah, Severance is very good, highly recommended. Last night watched a movie called 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I had not seen before. My partner recommended it. We were looking for something to watch. And if you're familiar with I remember watching the original Cloverfield movie, which is so it's basically an alien invasion of Earth thing.
Yeah.
But in this particular movie, you don't really find that out for sure until quite late in the movie, because it just seems like this poor woman, has been abducted and held in a fallout shelter by this crazed guy played by John Goodman. Yeah, and of course that's stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Mary Elizabeth Winstead was very good, and John Goodman as the antagonist, and it was very creepy. So
I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer, but I know of it. It's one of those movies I wouldn't mind watching at some stage. So maybe
it's a well executed movie. I will say that it's not the greatest thing ever happened, but it's like, because you watch it and you think, what's really going on here? Is it really stuff happening, or is she just being kidnapped?
I've seen the original Cloverfield, and it's interesting in Cloverfield. For those who don't know it, it's basically a giant alien monster that wrecks New York. But there's almost, I'm not sure if it's a post-credit scene or it's a mid-credit scene, but there's this scene very right at the end, which is almost found footage of the protagonist and his girlfriend at Coney Island, and they're on a Ferris wheel.
That's right.
In the background, you see the alien ship crash into the water in the distance on the horizon. It's so easy to miss. And I remember seeing that going, that kind of everything just sort of clicked into place a bit more. It was almost a bit too subtle. You didn't need to know about it to enjoy the movie, but it was a very clever thing that the director did.
There's one other movie that we want to talk about. We'll talk about that a bit later. You tell me what else you've been watching.
I'll show you something else that I've been watching. So I'm holding up a disc which I bought the other day, which is the original Suicide Squad movie. It's the extended cut. So this has got an extra 15 minutes worth of footage, and it makes a bit more sense. It has a lot more of the Joker in it than it did previously, and a few more scenes which better explain Harley Quinn's relationship to the Joker. I don't think it does a lot more to better the overall plot, but it kind of helps explain the relationship between the characters a bit better. So it's definitely the better version of the movie to watch.
Okay. It's a bit like Batman versus Superman. The extended edition explains a lot. It fills out a lot of the background. It makes it a much better movie.
Yes, to the point that the original one shouldn't have been released almost.
I know a lot of people don't, but actually don't mind Jared Leto's interpretation of the Joker.
No, I didn't mind it either. It's a lot more contemporary, but he's scary as well. You know, I thought he's a great actor, particularly when you think you've got previous interpretations of the character by Heath Ledger, which was who could have almost defined the character probably for many people. You know, but that's the beauty of theatre and drama, is that you can interpret characters and play them a different way. Like Heath Ledger's different to Jack Nicholson, if you remember. Yeah, that's right.
His interpretation of the Joker, Jared Leto.
A lot more scenes with him in it as Joker were shot, but they were edited out and they weren't included. So they've re-included some of them back in for this extended version.
And Margot Robbie is just great.
Yeah,
fabulous.
And I then went on to watch the Suicide Squad as well afterwards, just to sort of round things out. And that was very good. And you may know this, but they then made a series. I think they're still about to do a season 2 called The Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. I did see season 1 of Peacemaker, and I
You
enjoyed
did?
it very much. Yes, indeed.
So I watched it when it first came out, and I got to say, I really did not like the first episode. I liked to the point of, why have they made this? Because there is in the first episode, there is not a single good person. Like, everyone is either an asshole or like. So why am I watching this? There was no benefit to it. It was, however, I've then pushed on and watched the second episode, which helps a little bit. But yes, it's not top of my list of things to finish watching for the season. But
I enjoy. I can't remember what's his name. James Gunn.
Oh no, Cena.
John Cena. Yeah. I actually got quite fond of John Cena as a performer. I think he knows his limitations. He knows his characters, and like I love his interpretation of the Peacemaker being not particularly peaceful.
Yeah,
and
will bring peace no matter how much violence it takes.
And there is, without spoiling it too much, I think in the last episode there is a scene where they, the Justice League shows up in one form or another, and like most of them it's just a silhouette form, and it's because they're having to deal with the big bad, and it's like, where the heck were you guys? Now you show up. So Excellent. It's like, so basically it's like, don't take it too seriously. And I think it's like, there's bad guys and there's worse guys. I don't think there's any real good guys in the Peacemaker. So, and one of the best thing about it is the opening dance sequence, the opening titles.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. I think I mentioned one of the things James Gunn does is often gets his actors to dance. And he obviously starts. But that particular one, they don't look happy. Normally they do it as to sort of, it's a sign of vulnerability. This is the last thing I watched, and I've got a stack of 4 Blu-rays in my hands, John Wick, the quadrilogy. So I've watched all 4 now. I mean, I have seen them before, but I rewatched them in close succession to each other. And the 4th one goes for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
The first one is a beautifully well done, tight movie. But the 4th one goes for these. And there's a scene near the end, you may remember, where he has to ascend these very long stairs in Paris and gets to the top and then literally gets kicked down, right, all the way down to the bottom again, has to do the whole thing all over again. And as an audience member, I was watching it going, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to build tension, but this is just getting a bit too painful. The 4th one is good. There's a really good action scene, which some said is one of the best action scenes, and it's kind of a top-down camera view of John Wick going through different rooms and bad guys coming through different rooms, shooting each other. And they've got each room looks a bit different, and they've got mirrors in rooms, and they're using
I've seen that scene.
Yeah, there's Dragonfire shot, which is a special round that actually exists in shotguns, and it's incendiary. So it actually if it doesn't kill you, it sets you on fire. And so they use that in it, and it looks fantastic.
The problem I have, and I'm not anti-violence in movies, don't get me wrong, but like I find myself sometimes just switching out because they're just going, okay, director says, no, the script says we got to have this big fight action sequence. And it's like, oh, okay, let's just get it over. And I find myself tuning out until it's over and done with.
Well, the 4th one is definitely like that. It's too long. Some of the fights have a reason, and some of them are just and quite intentionally just action sequences, which are fun. But after you've already been sitting there for 2 hours and you've got another hour to go, it's like, oh, this is getting a bit too much. But yes, I mentioned John Wick in part because they made a 3-part television series called The Continental. Apparently it's going to be longer, but and I think each episode is over an hour. It's almost an hour and a half each. And I started watching it, and it's basically Winston, when who runs the Continental Hotel in New York when he's young. And so it's set in the 70s.
Right.
yeah, it didn't grab me that much. I got to say, I haven't watched it all, but yeah, I might finish that off.
Hadn't heard of that, so put something to check out. Just talking about extremely gratuitous fight scenes. Some of the best fight scenes that come to mind, which I did actually really enjoy and find enthralling, were from the old Netflix Daredevil series, which is now on Disney Plus,
right?
As part of Marvel universe there. And there's a new Daredevil series coming up very soon.
Heard about that. Right.
So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, and they've got all the main actors from the original Netflix series.
Oh,
Obviously
okay. So
later.
It's not a reboot; it's a continuation.
It's a continuation, and it's now set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Vincent D'Onofrio is Wilson Fisk, who's now the mayor of New York.
Yes, yeah.
So, I think the premise of it was that Matt Murdock has hung up the cape of Daredevil, and
Did you see the Hulk, or did you see She-Hulk, the series?
I did. Yes. Apparently, what happens in that is not canon.
But God damn, it was funny. But yeah,
I enjoyed it. No, I enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, the Matt Murdock in there. It's what happens there is not canon to what happens.
It's a bit too meta. A lot of it to be canon. But
I don't. If you're going to do meta, do it well. I don't have a.
I actually heard a story with the actor who plays Daredevil. He auditioned for Han Solo in the movie Solo. The feedback during the audition is, "Why aren't you looking at us?" But he's so used to playing a blind character who has to act with everything but his eyes. He wasn't engaging them with his eyes.
Yep.
Yeah, that was his story apparently.
And Vincent D'Onofrio is just a great actor. Anyway,
yes, I love him. Yeah.
So him as Wilson Fisk versus Charlie Cox is Daredevil.
I like Vincent D'Onofrio from his time in Law and Order: Criminal Intent. He was very good in that. So anyway,
okay, yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff. Anyway, anything else that you've watched that you want to talk about?
I think that's all I have watched and played. That's it, and that's you done.
Well, there is one movie another movie that I did watch, like a made for television movie that I did watch.
I must have been in the age of all these really awesome quality made for streaming movies. It must have been something interesting to treat your eyeballs with.
Oh well, here's the thing. It definitely was a thing. I am of course talking about Star Trek Section 31.
Yes.
Starring Michelle Yeoh, who's very good, and she was very good in this. Yep. To give her credit. But yeah, the Section 31 movie has been much anticipated by Star Trek nerds. Sorry, that was just my testicles swelling out again.
It sounds like you have to plug them back in.
I'm going to go back and say that again. Michelle Yeoh is a very good actor and Oscar award-winning actor. But the movie was a disappointment. I think that's probably the kindest thing to say about it. It had potential. I've read some commentary that suggested what they should have done was kind of taken the James Gunn approach and actually made it a comedy. And with some of the outlandish characters they had, because then it might have actually worked out much better, because it did have the kind of vibe of Suicide Squad-ish, the Suicide Squad in space sort of thing almost. So
Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing.
It did kind of have that sort of vibe. So if they had sort of played it that way and lent into that genre, with some cool music and some good comedy, it might have actually worked out a lot better than what it did. Look, and I know there are people out there who love it and enjoyed it, and that's great. But when you're comparing it to some of the really good Star Trek movies that are out there. It's just not on the same plane. I think it was really. Correct me if I'm wrong. You may know otherwise, but I believe it was intended originally to be a spin-off TV series, and
Right.
the story for this was pretty much going to be the first 2 pilot episodes for that series. That's probably not ever going to happen.
No, but it certainly has that feel of the ensemble cast. I think Michelle Yeoh did the best she could have done with the script that she was given.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I've also heard it before I even saw it. I read someone make the comment that the travesty they gave such an excellent actor, such bad things to say. Like just the story. The analogy that I came up with was like a teenager had written a science fiction story, and then someone said, "Okay, we're going to buy that, but can you make it? Can you fit it into the Star Trek universe?" And they go, "I haven't really seen much Star Trek." I said, "No, just do your best. You'll be right." And so they wrote this thing, and then no one said no, and they just kept going, and then they made it, and then it exists.
Okay, to be slightly kinder, we do get a bit of backstory about her, about how she came to become emperor back in the mirror universe with the Terran Empire. I found that quite interesting, a pretty brutal way of becoming emperor. So that was definitely interesting. I probably would have liked to have seen more of her being emperor back in those days.
She was a totalitarian dictator empress, and I didn't see it explained at all what made her change, besides the fact that there was some mention that she might have been kicked out by the people, but dictators don't usually change their complete attitude to the world because they're dethroned. But her whole personality changed, her whole attitude changed. The reason I sort of went with it is because I know that some of these characters are from Star Trek Discovery, and I haven't seen much of that. So it's possible that if you had, it would have made more sense. But she helpful, but and she works as a team. That's a fundamental thing that dictators don't do. They don't want to work as part of a team for a common goal. They want to control the team.
It'd be a bit like if Khan Noonien saying, just turned out to be, well, I'm happy to work with you guys. Let's, we've got common goals and objectives. Let's work together nicely. And I'm not going to try and take over your ship at all.
What do you think of the mystery? It looks they didn't know that there was a traitor amongst them. Did you like that idea?
Predictable, to be honest. I thought.
It did hold my attention, I've got to say, because I didn't know and I was guessing and trying to work out who it was. So that worked.
I'm not one of those people that go, oh, I wonder who it is. I wonder if I can work it out. I'm just going to sit back. Okay, I'll just watch this unfold. I wasn't that invested into, oh my God, who could the traitor be? Oh my God, please help.
And the ship at the end that they used was like a garbage conveyor.
Yeah, garbage scow.
And they used a what was it? Was it a gravitational field? I'm trying to remember now.
There was a toy doll that had a power source in it. That they made it explode, and that was actually possibly one of the funniest things of the film. I'm thinking, wow, that's actually really funny.
It was
creepy doll.
And if they'd done a bit more,
if they'd lent into the comedy a bit more, and sort of like that was a funny way of defeating an enemy. But it felt out of place.
Yes, it did. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, don't want to talk about Section 31 anymore because it doesn't deserve our time. If you have feelings otherwise, please let us know, and we may discuss further. But it's all right.
Okay.
It's all right.
Shall we have a break and then come back and watch the movie of the weeks?
Well, folks, we're back. I hope you enjoyed your 10 seconds away from the screen. If you're like me, you probably would have just fast forward it because, Let's talk about our movie of the week, movie of the episode, which is Star Trek Into Darkness.
So what? That's not the one I watched. Oh, wait. Actually, it is the one I watched. I'm just joking. So it's my idea. Just imagine it, though. Star Trek Into Darkness. So this is not the first of the J.J. Abrams Star Treks. It's the second, isn't it?
The Kelvin timeline, as they call it.
Kelvin timeline, that's right, yes. So I chose this one partly because they're established characters, because it's the second episode. Well, I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I just wanted to watch it again. And because it has an appearance of Khan, Noonien Sung. I'm just going to flash up my 4K Blu-ray copy of it, this Australian one. So did you watch it streaming or on disc?
No, on my Blu-ray, on a Blu-ray, regular Blu-ray disc.
Do you have it within arm's reach, by any chance?
So yes, I do have it on regular Blu-ray.
The reason I ask is that as I started to watch this movie, I noticed that it was swapping between a full screen 16:9 and a super widescreen 2.35 to 1 within the movie. And it actually says on the back of mine that both the 4K Blu-ray and the regular Blu-ray have an extra 30 minutes. Well, not an extra, sorry. 30 minutes of the movie are expanded.
You know, here's the thing. I know I've watched movies like that, and I've sort of and it's happened, and I did not pick up on it at the time, only until someone afterwards says it.
So I did notice it, and mainly because the full screen scenes are usually the really spectacular ones of the Enterprise.
It just says widescreen 16:9. Sorry, no, I stand corrected. It says widescreen 16:9 and also 2.4:1.
So it was a mix. So you probably
it was a mixture. There you go.
I did notice it when I watched it, and I then went and watched the first 5 minutes of it on Netflix, and Netflix is all just 2.4 to 1 aspect ratio.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you've seen it before, obviously.
Yes, of course I've seen it. I saw it at the cinema when it came out in 2013. So we're talking a movie that's now about 12 years old. It's a movie that we'll pull out every now and then because there's a big rollicking sci-fi action adventure movie that just also happens to be a Star Trek movie. So probably a good summary of it.
This is a good summary.
That's again. Goodbye.
Thank you. See you next time. So
yeah, go for it.
My favourite Star Trek movie of all the Star Trek movies that have been made is Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. I could have suggested that movie, but I thought if I do this, we can talk about this, and Into Darkness has direct linkages to The Wrath of Khan.
A lot of absolutely clear shout-outs to Wrath of Khan, for sure.
So I thought it would give us an excuse to talk about both of the movies. Of the three Kelvin Abrams movies, which is your favourite?
Star Trek Beyond, the third one.
Is that right?
Yeah, the one that's actually not an Abrams movie.
Right.
But no, it was directed by Justin Lin. Oh, and J.J. Abrams produced it, but that just means he helped put the money together. Yeah. Yep. So he didn't direct. J.J. Abrams didn't direct it. But no, that's not to say I hated. It's not to say I hated Into Darkness, because I do enjoy enjoy Into Darkness. But I think I enjoy Star Trek Beyond a bit better. But no, let's focus on Into Darkness and perhaps compare and contrast with Wrath of Khan, which I presume anyone who's into Star Trek is very intimately familiar with.
This is the last thing I'm going to show on the screen. This is my copy of the novelization of the movie Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. I think I was 12 years old when I got this. I remember being on the train going to school reading this book.
I'm surprised I didn't beat you up for that book.
You may have borrowed it and read it. It was very good. And it had extra scenes in it, which didn't end up being in the movie, and explained a bit more about regular one and so forth. But anyway, that's The Wrath of Khan. Into Darkness. So I really liked it. I actually enjoyed watching it more than I think I did when it first came out. When it first came out, I don't know, I just thought it was a bit silly with the big, large Dreadnought class ship that was hidden from view. But this time, I just turned my brain off or had lower expectations, because the whole thing was quite good, quite fun.
Yeah, I think it's a good exploration of what would happen if Star Trek became overtly militarized, because the whole thing about Star Trek and the Federation is that it's not supposed to be a military organization. It's supposed to be about exploration and supporting the worlds of the Federation and so forth. It's not supposed to be, although while it has military capability, it's not an overtly military organization. So I think this movie makes the reasonable exploration. Well, what happens if Starfleet did go down that path? And that's Admiral Marcus basically that took them down that path, and it's like, oh well, let's see the consequences of that, because is everybody going to be happy about that? So I think he's definitely one of those. The means, the ends justify the means individuals, and because some of the means he takes, people don't react very well to, and are not happy about. So
So the basic underlying premise is, I guess, that Admiral Marcus, through means which aren't explained, gets his hands on 72 frozen, genetically augmented humans from the 21st century, I think, during the eugenics, who are offshoots of the eugenics wars in the 21st century. That's where Khan's from, isn't it? He's from Earth.
Yeah, I think back in the original series, they were supposed to have been from 1996.
Is that right?
Okay. I think that time, because, that was like a long time in the future.
The character Khan originally appeared in the original Star Trek series. I can't remember which season it was, but yeah.
Yes.
And then he was the main bad guy in The Wrath of Khan, and then he appears in this movie played by Benedict Cumberbatch. He's not revealed as being Khan straight away, but I think me and most people stepping into the cinema to watch it already knew that.
Yeah, it was kind of like denied, but like, oh no, he's not really. He might, no, he's probably not Khan. They wanted to keep it a surprise, and the surprise kind of everybody, anyone who's sort of following the movie, kind of, is it going to be a Khan? Can't they do something anyway?
But once Marcus gets his hands on these people and thaws Khan out, it doesn't really explain this, and it's only this third watching, I think, of it that I fully understood that Khan was working for Marcus, and making weapons. Yes. It would have been really, really, really helpful if that had a flashback showing that, because that I've seen it 3 times now, and that's the first time it really clicked that they had a strong prior history together. Yeah,
I agree. It's always better to show rather than tell.
Yeah,
So let's have a flashback to Khan and his people being found in deep space, and
that would have been
because in the original series, then they were found by the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's right. They were
Captain Kirk and the Enterprise, and that doesn't happen in this Kelvin timeline. I think they're discovered by a Section 31 ship or something like that.
Yeah. So Section 31 is the special forces, special operations, covert operations.
Yeah, basically covert operations, sort of like the dirty work,
the off the books work that
Federation. Off the Federation. Yes.
So, and we've just talked about the straight to streaming Star Trek Section 31, but there is a direct reference to Section 31 in the movie, isn't there?
There is indeed,
which was a pleasant surprise.
But yeah, they have the big explosion in London, which we think, that's the Starfleet archive. Why is that being bombed? That's not important to anybody. And it turns out that the Starfleet archive was actually really the base of operations for Section 13, and that was what was being blown up.
Section 31, not Section 13. Section 31.
That's just my brain sort of mixing up 13 and 31 and thinking 13.
So yes, we've talked about who Khan is. I can't imagine you haven't seen it, but in case you haven't, the character of Khan in the original Star Trek television series, it's the same character, in fact, the same actor who plays him in Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, from Fantasy Island.
The plane. Oh no, that was Tattoo. The plane.
Yeah, well, that's his buddy, but he's not in Star Trek. But this is a reimagining of the character, I guess.
One of the things I do love about Wrath of Khan, I mean, there are many excellent things about the movie, but I do love the soundtrack. and there's some really good. If you listen to some of the soundtrack bits on Spotify, I've got a playlist of all kind of sci-fi movie soundtrack bits, and one of my favorite bits is some of the combat sequences, and just listening to the soundtrack is just takes you back. Just the.
I have that as well, actually. That same piece with the it's got the French horns going in it.
Yeah,
it's not James Horner though, is it? It is James Horner.
It is James Horner.
Surprise Attack. I think.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's that. It changes the tempo of the piece a few times because there's like fast and slow. It really builds up the tension, and it goes quiet, and then it has the Enterprise getting the crap blown out of it, and then the Enterprise gets pulled back into space dock with holes in it, basically, and all these civilians at space dock are going, but wait a minute, we're supposed to be explorers. Like, why is this shit? Why is this Enterprise had the crap shut out of it?
Yes,
it was really good.
Trivia bit is one of the characters watching this ship come into space dock was the actress Grace Lee Whitney, who played Yeoman Rand in the original series. So she's the blonde lady. She's the blonde lady watching it, and like that's the Enterprise. That's her Enterprise, you know.
Yes, it is. Oh my god, that's good. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that just adds a little bit more to the drama and the feel. You're like, oh my god, what the heck's going on?
I do notice that in Into Darkness, Spock near the start of the movie says, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few."
He does say that. He does.
Which
it's a very Spock thing to say.
A very Spock thing to say, and it's a theme that's said repeatedly throughout the earlier movie, Wrath of Khan. There's that scene where the Enterprise rises out of the water for some reason. I don't know what's in the water.
Yeah, I didn't think the Enterprise was a submarine, but and even Scotty kind of thought.
And he made a good point. The salt water can't be good. Yeah. It's like, I'm pretty sure that's an environment it wasn't designed to operate in.
Yeah.
I mean, having said that, there's a scene where the movie goes full widescreen of it coming out of the water, and that's where the music rises, and it's very, very impressive.
The other thing about the opening sequence is actually it's a really good reminder about the Prime Directive as well. This is a really good, about how they should not be interfering with the evolution of a species of intelligent beings, but also they want to save them from the volcano exploding and destroying the planet.
That's right. I assumed they were there because Federation had heard that the volcano was going to explode.
No, they were just doing a survey mission, and then they discovered.
So they took it upon themselves.
They took it upon themselves, and that's why Kirk gets his ass hauled over the coals by Admiral Pine. So
a very good scene, very well done scene, actually.
Yes.
A lot of close-in face shots of Chris Pine. Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder what the Prime Directive would do, though. Would it actually say you should let the volcano erupt?
I think they're being a bit absolutist for the sake of creating tension in the movie. I think in the real world they were like, well, yes, but they were going to die anyway. So, and of course they end up seeing the Enterprise and drawing a silhouette outline of it. So, okay, that's going to be there.
There's a great little subtle scene when they're drawing the outline of the Enterprise. Is that on the right-hand side, there's a guy who's holding the original papyrus, and he basically just throws it to the side. he just throws it away. They're not interested in that old thing that they used to worship.
Well, we got our new religion religion now.
So. Yeah.
Apparently, that sort of thing happened in Papua New Guinea because you had aircraft. They call it cargo cult. So you had aircraft that would drop supplies by parachute into remote villages in Papua New Guinea. Sort of, I think it was during the war or something like that. And so there, because Papua New Guinea being very remote and very isolated, and lots of valleys and so forth, very hard for Western civilization to get into. And they saw these planes flying overhead, not knowing what they were, but they saw things falling from the sky in parachutes, and I thought, well, the gods are giving these gifts, So,
and they used to actually replicate. They used to make planes on the ground, things of the same shape.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So it's like, okay, it's like that's the sort of thing they're trying to avoid. But then again, yeah, I think if it's, I think on the balance of morality, it's like, okay, let's let them live.
And it was a good discourse where Spock is getting the suit and he's quoting the Prime Directive to Kirk, and Uhura's there, and she's just got a smile on her face. She doesn't actually say anything, but like she's like the audience. She's like smiling. She knows that he's being a bit too pedantic. But there's that great line when Kirk's in the turbo lift with Uhura, and he says, "Oh, are you two fighting?" He says, What's that even like?
What's that even like?
The way he said it was perfect.
Now, hang on, I'm just going to correct myself. Did I call the Admiral Christopher Pine is the actor, isn't he?
Chris Pine is Kirk.
He's the Admiral Chris Pine, and it's not. It's Pike. Admiral Pike.
Chris Pike is actually, as you know, the very first captain of the Enterprise from the original pilot.
No, not the first captain of the Enterprise. But the first captain of the Enterprise was Captain Robert April. Captain Pike was the second captain of the Enterprise.
Oh my God, you're such a fucking. How do you know this? What is this? Please explain.
It's actually explained quite nicely in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, because the very first episode is like Captain Pike is down on the planet, hanging out with his partner in Mount Montana or somewhere, very mountainous and snowy, and riding horses and all that sort of stuff. And the guy who beams down to call him back to duty because he's not answering his calls is Robert April, who was the captain of the Enterprise, and he's handing it over to Captain Pike.
Nice.
So yeah, but I think Robert April is mentioned. I can't remember whether he was shown in the original series. It's been a long time since I've watched any of that, so I need to go back and watch that again. But yeah, so I think Robert April was the first captain.
Right, excellent. No, that's good. I like bits of trivia like that.
Look, that's redeeming myself for confusing Pine and Pike earlier. Getting back to the point I was originally trying to make was it was interesting when we went back to the Starfleet headquarters in San Francisco. The very militaristic sort of looking uniforms they were wearing, with kind of like militaristic hats and jacket and so forth, kind of as a little bit of a shout out. It's like, oh no, is Starfleet in danger of becoming militaristic? Maybe that's just a little bit, because we don't see any uniforms like that at any other point, I don't think, in any of the.
There were a lot of different uniforms in this movie. I got to say, I won't say it was inconsistent, but it was. If you were into that kind of thing, it was almost confusing. Yeah. I mean, I realize that military people of the real world do have formal and informal uniforms, I guess, but this was, and they're different to probably any uniform in any other movie too. I don't know. One thing I was going to say is that I think it occurred after the Enterprise had left for Praxis, the Klingon homeworld. Kronos, not Praxis. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, Kronos Praxis is a Klingon world from we see in Star Trek 6.
That explodes. That's the one that
Kronos
explodes.
That's the one that half explodes. But yeah, Kronos,
that explosion where it explodes, and there's that ring. That's actually now called in special effects the Praxis ring.
Oh, there you go.
Because the update of Star Wars Episode 4, when the Death Star blows up, it actually has a Praxis ring in it.
Has a Praxis ring around it.
Anyway, so Kronos, you're right, quite true. But Kirk, he's getting the crew together. They've got some shuttle that they'd grabbed a month or so ago, and there's 2 security officers there that escort them.
Yes.
Did you recognise them? They're actually the guys from the bar fight in the first movie.
No, I did not know that. Oh, that's really cool. Well, okay, here's one thing. Given the prevalence of transport technology, why do they use a shuttle to get up to the Enterprise? I mean, why?
That's a good point.
It's like, what's the rationale? Is it shielded being in space dock or something like that? Or, it's like...
Is it just an excuse for the movie makers to do a wide sweeping shot of the Enterprise as they're approaching it?
Look, that's
Probably.
not very good in story explanation, but that's a very in terms of production values and everything like that. Yes, that's probably the reason why.
Well, it's interesting though that the interplanetary, what's the word? It's intersystem teleportation is a thing, because Khan, after he shoots up Starfleet headquarters, he teleports straight to Kronos.
Yeah, that's a new thing. That's unique because that was basically taking Scotty's
Teleport during in warp, because that idea I don't think is ever used again, but that could actually destroy a lot of plots, or it's a bit too convenient in a way. That's an amazing technology. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get, like, we're talking something multiple light years away, the level of precision required would be beyond astronomical.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Didn't like that too much.
So let's kind of go back a bit. So we have the explosion in London, and so all the brass assemble in this particular conference room in San Francisco at Starfleet, and Kirk is the one who realizes, well, that's the standard procedure. Is like, is when there's an incident of this magnitude, we all have to meet here and then discuss it. And it's like, oh, what's the point of blowing up an archive? It's not that big a deal, but it's like, oh, we're the target. So, and he realizes, like, too late. So, because, Pike is killed, and a bunch of other people are killed.
The only problem with that, though, the whole idea is that it was a benign target, and the explosion was just an excuse to get them all together. But it actually wasn't a benign target. It was actually the home of Section 31. It still works, but it's sort of, it's just an action movie. Anyway.
One of the things I thought, it was almost anachronistic that we have an old school fire hose sitting there on the floor.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, firefighting technology has not really progressed in 300 or 400 years. We're still using old school fire hoses.
So, that's just brought to mind a memory I have of seeing one of the original Star Trek movies, and there are fire extinguishers on the bridge. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah.
Or there might have been more than one. I remember thinking back then, why do they still got fire extinguishers? Surely in the future they wouldn't have that. But
can't they just beam the fire out into space or something like that?
That's right. But that's a good point.
So I just love the anachronistic stuff because the plot needs it. So it's like,
it happened because of plot. What I really liked is that scene where Kirk is looking at the view screen on the bridge of the Enterprise, but the shot is from outside the ship, and the view screen actually looks like a window.
Yes,
from the outside looking in. And I'm thinking, has that always been like that? Or is that just has it always been a window?
In the original series, the window was up above.
Ah, yeah, okay.
It was a glass window.
It's like a skylight.
Above the top of the bridge. Because I think there was a sequence where it might have been even the first episode, but they kind of zoom in and into the top of the saucer section, and then you go into the bridge.
In the original series?
I believe, from memory, without sitting down and checking it out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. It actually looked pretty cool, but I just don't remember the view screen being treated like a window.
I mean, it's very cool.
It looked really good. Yeah.
Cool. I'm happy to figure the cool factor. But, it's the Kelvin universe. Everything's different. When they do get up to the shuttle, and when they realize that Khan is off on Kronos, and they're going out there, and they're using an old trade shuttle, which they reference Harry Mudd, who was an infamous character from the Star Trek universe. So
I recognize the name, and I know the character, but I didn't notice it.
Yeah, it was picked up from the Mudd episode a few weeks earlier. It was where they recovered that ship from. So it was just a very throwaway in passing. You have to go back and watch it again. But in passing line, I thought, okay, that's making a note of that. One question I want to ask is, why is that sector of Kronos abandoned? You see, there's a lot of infrastructure there, and it's been abandoned somehow. So I wonder why.
Yeah, it's not really explained.
They do patrol it, but nobody actually lives there. I think that's the gist that I got. Yeah, they don't really explain. I'm guessing possibly some sort of disaster, either sort of if there was either a war or some sort of planetary ecological event happened, but they don't really explain.
I do like the look of the Klingons. They took their helmets off.
Yes,
pretty good. Wasn't the big hair. They had ridges on their heads, but without the hair, it did kind of remind you a little bit more of the original series, where they didn't really have bumps at all, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and we do learn when we talk to Khan, aka John Harrison, and he tells them the story of how he was found by Admiral Marcus and set to work for Section 31, helping build weapons and so forth for him. And I think partly because the rest of his crew was still kept in hibernation, and sort of, he's doing it to save them.
So they were kept as ransom.
Yeah, as ransom. Yeah, as hostages. I think. Yeah, hostages. Yes. So which makes me ask the question: was Khan right? Was he justified in his actions? I think there could be an argument made that he was. I mean, yes, he was supposedly a megalomaniac who wanted to take over and rule the world back when he was expelled into deep space. But in the context of the early movie, he's basically talking about his crew, about he's getting his family back. That seems to be his concern. That seems almost justifiable,
I just wonder if it was Kirk in the same position, what would he have done? And probably something quite similar, I'd imagine.
I think that's a very good question. I think, Kirk, well, we do literally see at the beginning, Kirk saved one of his crew members at the expense of following the strict dictates of Starfleet law, because he felt it was the right thing to do.
Well, a good villain is one that has a point, that actually has a point. They may not overall be right, and then maybe the execution of their plan is poor or dangerous. He kind of had a point. And that's one of the things I underexplained was the fact that he was almost being held. He was like an indentured worker almost. He was only doing it to keep his people. And that really would have been good if that was fleshed out a bit more.
One big question. One of the things, the issue people had with the movie was you had a character by the name of Khan Noonien Singh. Singh being a Sikh name, and a Sikh from northern India, correct me if I'm wrong, and being played by a pasty white Englishman with blue eyes.
Yeah.
That just felt very out of place, as much, as I love Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor, and as I do love him in the film, but I think, oh, really?
Yeah, it was a bit. Yes, that's a good point. He has that name for a reason. In fact, and you've probably seen it, but only yesterday I watched an episode from season 2 of Star Trek: Strange New World, where seeing the great granddaughter or something of Khan, who's a member of the Enterprise. There's another timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly thing, and she ends up in Toronto with Kirk, and she meets Khan, and he's like a 10-year-old Indian boy.
Yes, that's correct. Yes,
and she's got a pistol, and she knows what he's going to do.
Yeah,
and she has a pistol in her hand, a loaded pistol, and I just thought, surely, if she knows he's going to commit genocide, even if it means you cease to exist, surely you'll want to put a bullet in his head.
Yeah.
And she didn't. That I noticed they had an instance of something you absolutely love in science fiction. Like it was almost like they'd heard your complaint about this concept that happens in science fiction, and they doubled down on it. Lights inside the helmet.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Like, how bright were they? Like, that was not just a little... Yeah. It was like a halo of lights all around these helmets.
It was...
Give me your thoughts. Did you notice it at the time? You must have.
I didn't make a note of it.
Like your brain edits it out.
Speaking of that, this...
Here we go.
Wagging the finger of admonition here.
I think he has a point to make.
Because we have Scotty is on board the big bad ship,
The Dreadnought, whatever it's
the
called.
Dreadnought.
Yep.
I can't remember his name, but so he'd smuggled himself on board there. So he was sort of working to help them out, and he had to do the airlock control to open the airlock control to let Kirk and Khan into the ship so they could board it and sort of do their thing. Why is the airlock control literally several hundred meters away?
It was a long way away, wasn't it?
From the actual airlock door.
Shouldn't it be like next to it?
And it's not even an airlock door. It's just a door that opens straight into space. It's not even a proper airlock.
Yeah, that's true.
And because there's the other guy there, and who's harassing him. And this is a massive room. Like the volume of air in there is enormous, and so the size of the airlock in comparison to the volume of the air is actually quite small. Yes, air would blow out, but it's not like the entire atmosphere is going to get sucked out in a hurry. And so the fact that the other guy who's harassing him gets sucked out hundreds of meters away directly out of the airlock.
Yeah, if he was standing right in front of the door, maybe, but if
he was standing right there, but even then you would there's a bit of a breeze. Yep. Okay, I better do something about that. I'm going to stand out the way so I don't get sucked directly out. But it's not like a tiny small airlock where you blow it and all the air gets immediately emptied into the vacuum of space.
I think there was a missed opportunity for a very gross scene to take place, because just before the point where Kirk and Khan travel between ships, the big dreadnought ship attacks the Enterprise and rips holes into it, and some of the crew jettison into space and die. All the wreckage between the two ships is from the Enterprise. From the Enterprise. Yeah. Why didn't they have a scene where there's like a frozen person that Kirk bumps into?
Like
how cool would that have been? Hey, it's Ensign Smith. That's why he didn't answer my call.
They did that in a recent episode that I watched of The Expanse, where they actually come into the site of a battle. A ship comes into the site
and
of the
battle,
you actually saw frozen bodies in space, and they being bumped into. And because this is a J.J. Abrams movie, there's so much lens flare.
Not as much as the first movie, but yes, there was.
There's still a lot of lens flare.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, the first movie there was a lot of complaints about.
What do you think of the appearance of Old Spock? It's a bit like Old Spice, but Old Spock.
I think that's actually his last ever appearance of any Star Trek franchise. Yeah, it was basically because he was a significant part of the first Kelvin Timeline movie, so it was reasonable for new Spock to speak to Old Spock.
It was very well done when he said, "I've made a vow not to interview the timeline." That being said, we're talking about Khan here.
Yeah. And I think this is kind of like Old Spock has had the lesson of like, okay, you can't always stick directly by the rules, harking back to the prime directive issues at the beginning of the movie, where we knew Spock was like, nope, prime directive, let's stick to it, we've got to do it, that's what it says. And Old Spock is like, yeah, I know we've got these rules, but I think you need to know this.
Well, Spock has an excellent quote in Star Trek VI, Undiscovered Country. He said, logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end of it. He said that to Savick, and she didn't understand it at the time. And he's basically saying, you start with logic, but it goes beyond that. So him as an old Spock doing what he did, going against his own advice, made sense.
So in that sense, it was cool when you think about it in those terms. And like, who doesn't love a bit of old Spock,
Yeah, the old Spock.
When they're fighting the ship, the two ships are fighting the Enterprise and the Dreadnought. They're close to the moon. They're inside. So they're inside the moon's orbit of the Earth. Okay, so they lose control and they start falling to Earth.
Yep,
they're falling to Earth from about 400,000 kilometers away. And if you're an Apollo ship and you're aiming back towards it, it takes 4 days to get back to Earth. You don't fall back to Earth in 10 minutes from a ship that's not under power. It doesn't take that long. It should take a lot longer.
Maybe they were going that fast, and that's why the ship was near destruction, because it's going to enter the atmosphere and burn up.
Possibly.
But you don't get that impression, though.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think it's quite clear for a while that they're actually in the vicinity of the moon. They're very close to the moon. So
it's dictated that in any movie where something from outer space approaches the Earth, it has to fly directly past the moon. Doesn't matter where it's coming from, it will always be going directly past. Even though statistically it's really improbable, that's always how it happens.
Yeah. Also, statistically, really probable that the ship, they're going to crash back in San Francisco Bay.
I kept an eye out for that because I remember thinking that's just too much of a coincidence. But the Dreadnought aims for that. It actually makes the point.
Okay.
He tells the computer. That was a very impressive crash landing of that Dreadnought onto San Francisco. It looked really good.
One thing they don't do well in space movies is deal with the concept of soft body physics. So, for example, let's take this little space shuttle toy that I'm looking at here. And the way a lot of stuff gets simulated in movies and video games, like this is like, it's a single hard body. And so when that ship goes and crashes into the harbour, it goes in as one solid piece and just flips over as one entire solid piece. You got to understand it's really thousands of pieces of tiles or pieces of metal or ceramic or whatever a starship is made up of. They should disintegrate into millions of pieces from the pressure. Because that's just how people do it in movies, because it's easy. So that's what we come to expect. But we know that cars don't act like that when cars have accidents.
Are you saying that the Enterprise has crumple zones?
Yes. Well, not intentionally, but, it would crumble. It would.
Yes, it would. Yeah, it would. But it looked good.
But it looked really cool, so I'm happy to forgive it for that. I do find it really cool, the whole fight sequence with Khan and Spock on the top of the garbage vehicle flying in the air above the streets of San Francisco. It was a very cool sequence. And then when I realized, oh my God, don't kill him. We need him because we need his blood to save Kirk, we haven't even talked about what happened to Kirk, did we?
Something happened. It looked vaguely familiar.
Yeah, I think there was an issue with the warp core, and he had to went inside to fix it.
And obviously, as everyone knows, this is an inversion, but an homage to what happened at the end of The Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
But which did it better, do you think?
From an emotional and dramatic point of view, I think The Wrath of Khan is better. If only for the fact that we know what's going to happen now. Oh, he's gone in to fix the wolf core. He's going to die. We know his death is inevitable, and then it's like, okay, well, how are we going to get him back?
There's that excellent scene when I think it's Scotty calls up from engineering and says, "Captain, you got to get down here."
Yes.
And he says, "What is it?" And then he just turns around and sees that Spock's chair's empty.
Yes.
And he knows straight away what's going on.
Yes, done so much better in Wrath of Khan, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was, and they could have almost replicated that as well, because
there was a moment. It says where they Mr. Spock, you better get down here. So check off Antov Yelchin, R.I.P. He sends a Mr. Spock, you need to get down here. I didn't get that feeling of realization and sort of, oh my God, what it was like, okay, I'm just going down because you say it. It just didn't hit as strongly. They had the tribble that survived and proved that Khan's blood worked. Mind you, if they had the tribble which had Khan's long life replicating factors, why couldn't they just extract it from the tribble and replicate it? Why did they really need Khan?
If they wanted to save humanity, they would just keep those 72 people warm enough so they've got liquid blood, and then just slowly extract it and help save every person on the planet from every disease that they've got. They've all got miracle blood.
Wow, you're a monster.
Yeah. Well,
this is what Khan was right.
Was he? Was Khan OP? Do you think though? Was he a bit like?
Yeah, he was pretty OP. Yeah, he was pretty indestructible, basically, for someone who'd made from organic flesh.
Still,
I believe,
he's not a robot. He's actually still a human.
Yeah, he's still human. He's still flesh and blood. When early in the movie, when Kirk tries to beat him up, and I'm so angry at you, I'm going to smack you to death, and Khan's just standing there and says, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. You quite finished. You let out your anger on my face.
Yeah, look, in the Marvel universe, he'd be a superhero, that's for sure.
I do like the idea that they took the torpedo off the ship onto a deserted planet. That was clever, and that totally made sense. They didn't need to do that at all, but they did. That was actually really quite well done. What do you think of the seatbelts?
Oh, the nanite seatbelts that just miraculously appeared. Well, that's basically the inertial dampers have failed, so we have to go back to seatbelts. That's what that's about.
But like that shit can move so fast. If the inertial dampeners have failed, you are paced.
Look, we've had a bit of a whinge about this movie, but I think it's very watchable. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a good comic book movie. It does deal with some very interesting concepts. It definitely leans probably more towards the action side than the hardcore sci-fi side of things.
I think it does one thing a bit more seriously than Wrath of Khan, and that's Spock exploring the concept of death. He actually mentions that, like, he honestly believed he was about to die in the volcano.
Yep.
And then he does a mind meld with Christopher Pike as he's dying, and so he gets an insight into what death's like. So he talks about it, and then it all coalesces when he literally watches Kirk die.
Yeah,
and that was quite interesting, actually. I understand why they didn't explore it more, but it was actually quite well done, because when someone who's supposed to be voiding himself of emotion, he was basically saying death is a very emotional thing. Anyway, it was quite clever.
That's a very good point. Very good observation. So I think we're just about ready to wrap up on Star Trek Into Darkness.
So I'm keen to hear from anyone listening on what their thoughts are. Have we missed any observations that you noticed when you've seen the movie?
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned is how they can get in contact with us, because we do have some social media happening. If you want to get in contact with.
So what is the best way for people to listen to us?
The best way for people to listen to us is through, obviously, our podcast for your favorite podcast app. And I believe we're available on pretty much all of them. I know we work on Spotify, we work on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. So I think we're pretty much out there. But we're also available as a YouTube video /podcast. So I'd recommend that, because then you can see our smiling faces, and when I wave the finger of admonition, you can see that for yourself. And the other visual things that we mentioned that we put up.
I guess another advantage of the YouTube video is that people can leave comments.
And people can leave comments there, yes. So please, by all means, we do welcome that. We've had some comments left by some people, and thank you very much for those who have. It's very much appreciated. So our YouTube channel is RamStig. So and we're at Ram_Stig on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page if you wish to communicate with us through Facebook, when it's just RamStig. That was all one word on Facebook. You'll recognise the logo. We would absolutely welcome any comments. If there's a movie that you particularly would like us to have a look at next time.
Yes, good idea.
We would really be keen to follow that for you. I know I had friends of mine who were really pleased that we talked about Highlander last time. So that was a lot of fun. That was a great conversation.
I think that's about all the words I've got for Star Trek Into Darkness. I really enjoyed seeing it again, and I really like how it connects to other iterations of Star Trek.
100% agree with you. Good, fun movie. Christopher Pine is great as Kirk. I think he really captures the essence Kirk without being too Shatner-esque.
Yeah, that's true.
Great fun movie. It was good to watch it again. Excellent suggestion, and definitely worth watching. I've got a suggestion for next week. Do you want to talk about it now, briefly?
You already have one worked out?
Yeah.
Please. All right.
I'd like to talk about Oblivion next time we do an episode. The Tom Cruise movie, Oblivion.
Oh, that is actually a really good choice. I love that movie. I haven't seen that for a while.
I think it's an underrated movie, to be honest. But we'll talk about that more next time. In the meantime, thank you, everyone, for joining us here at Legacy of the Monolith. I've been Stigin.
I'm RamNexus. Bye for now.
See you later.
RamNexus is great. Remnexus is great. Stigin's not so great, but Remnexus is great. Yeah. You're never going to get to hear the song that I just sang